On September the 4th last year, a 7.1 earthquake hit the New Zealand city of Christchurch, destroying many buildings in the central city and suburbs. Thankfully, as it happened in the early morning, the city centre was deserted and miraculously there were no deaths. Then, just as Christchurch was beginning to recover, a second, more disastrous quake hit 5.5 months later on February the 22nd this year. This time it was during a busy Tuesday lunch hour and the damage was many times greater. Around a third of the central business area has been destroyed, including a large proportion of significant historical buildings. Infrastructure such as roads, water and sewage has been decimated and 182 people have died. A large number of church buildings were among those destroyed, but as the city struggles to recover, the church has joined hands with civil defence, police, fire and other disaster services, serving their local communities in 100 different ways. A particular feature has been the unprecedented cooperation between churches of all denominations. For instance, the Baptist churches joined together to appoint a city-wide group to coordinate recovery work, and other denominations are joining in. The team is headed by William Drury Turnbull.
Immediately after the earthquake, the NGO sector and the government departments were incapacitated, and they were operating at a sort of 25% capacity. And what happened was the churches stepped into that gap, and they just got right in there. They were doing things like door-to-door, door knocking. They were providing food into the community. A number of them ended up in feeding stations, providing food from a set area. One church that I know of became a welfare centre, but there was a shotgun effect. In other words, everybody was doing their own thing, and there was a number of crossovers and stuff. But by and large, the church just responded amazingly so into that role, and it fitted so neatly too, because they knew their communities, they knew where the needs were, and they just went ahead and met them.
Now, since then, there has been a lot more coming together in a cooperative unit. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, since probably in the last 2 weeks, I suppose, we've formed an alliance, if you like, of earthquake response coordinators to meet the needs and to work together collaboratively. And of probably just about all the denominations are represented in some way. It's a fantastic opportunity just to cross the denominational divide, and we've never been given an opportunity like that before.
So this is pretty unique.
I think it is. I mean, let's just take September 4 earthquake, we called it Earthquake 1. I don't think there was that kind of response. There wasn't that sort of collaboration and cooperation taking place. There certainly is now.
In another unique move, 8 national relief agencies have joined together in an NGO called the National Disaster Relief Forum, which is working closely with government and city authorities. The agencies include World Vision, Tear Fund, CBM, Save the Children and Oxfam, with coordinator Nick Clark of Christian World Service.
Groups that are nationally located but internationally focused, usually in their work in community development and humanitarian relief, we're looking to see how they could support the people of Christchurch in ways that are most appropriate. To that end, I began playing the role of liaison point for those 8 groups. Amongst our networks, we have a lot of potential skills and resources that are available that could be appropriate for use in this response. We're also aware that as agencies located in New Zealand but with an offshore focus, that many of our constituents of course live in Christchurch and have supported us for many years, and we wanted to be able to support them in ways that were appropriate. So went and made ourselves known to the Emergency Operations Centre, which is run by the Ministry of Civil Defence and Emergency Management, and ended up having a desk within the EOC and acting as a conduit role between the 8 member agencies and groups like the Ministry of Civil Defence and Emergency Management, Ministry of Social Development, to a lesser extent the Ministry of Education, and other community groups, churches and so on.
Is this sort of cooperation between agencies unusual?
It's not in the sense that we are very collaborative and we share information with one another about what we're doing offshore, but what's unusual about this one is it's the first time that NDRF members have worked together, intentionally together, sharing resources, leveraging off one another, mobilising constituents for joint events and so on. So it's quite a unique scenario in that respect together with them.
I think one of the things that's come out of all this has been a lot closer cooperation between the civil authorities and churches and local groups. How have you seen this worked out?
It's been quite impressive actually. The local authorities and central authorities are wanting to engage obviously with people on the ground as they work out needs assessments, as they work out how they can best be responding to help the people of Christchurch. To that end, they are very keen to talk to people who work on the ground. Church groups and faith groups have always been at the forefront of this sort of work. It's the heart of the gospel. So after this event, churches simply had to walk out their door as they do every other time and begin the work of support and sharing the love of God in these very real and tangible ways. That's led on to ongoing discussions and a sense that amongst the church communities, amongst the faith-based organisations, also themselves, just how much leverage and potential there is amongst their own communities for making significant contributions as Christchurch considers the rebuild.
Has this changed the way that the church can bring its particular perspective on life?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, it has. We've become outward focused. The church across all denominations is now in the community. It's doing what I believe the gospel message is all about, and that is taking Christ to the people in practical ways, in caring ways, in loving ways. For example, just taking a meal out and giving it to somebody. We've got an appeal coming up prior to Easter, and we've called it the Easter shoe boxes. And we're going door knocking, we're going to give one to every home. But the church itself is now recognised. I think that largely it was invisible. And I'm not being disrespectful to the church, but in the community, its people were invisible. And all of a sudden they become visible. And people are knocking on doors, making sure that people are okay. And they wear their little name badges and things, and we're from this church or that church. And all of a sudden the community are now seeing the army of God marching forward, and it's exciting.